person who's been created by Bela Lugosi, he basically carries out her into the water and the both of them drown together rather than her become a zombie. So, you know, it's a great movie. It's one of the five. This is a 4-star. I think it's the only 4-star movie that James Ellison. He was called Shamrock.
Well, it's also the time of the year when all the horror movies come out.
Oh God, they're everywhere. They're doing. AMC is running 15 nights of horror.
15 nights?
15 nights, and you're seeing a lot
all
of...
the slasher movies.
All the slasher movies. You've got Fear Fest is going to be in a theater. Basically, we went... You know, you go over and look for videos like that. A couple of days ago, the brand new... The 3D version of Pirates came out, and the place is situated with horror movies that you can buy for like $1.99.
Oh, well, you gotta have fun. They have to have fun with it.
Yeah, but let's see. Trick-or-treating resembles the late medieval practice of souling, where poor people will go door to door on Hallowmas, November the 1st. Isn't that amazing? The 31st of Hallowmas.
Hallowmas, the day after. And then there's All Hallows Eve, which is actually the eve before Halloween.
Yeah, which is sort of screwed up anymore because of the fact that we're trying, because of schools, they're trying to have Halloween on weekends, and so therefore All Hallows Eve ends up on a school day, which makes
the night before school, Sunday.
Well, no, the night, but they're having it on a weekend.
Yeah, so it would basically the All Hallows Eve would actually be the day after the celebration of Halloween.
Yeah.
Which kind of screws it up. But this thing about All Souls Day.
Yeah. It was just something, you know, it is, you know, basically even Shakespeare mentioned it in 2 Minutes Gentleman of Verona. When Speed accuses his master of pulling, you know, like a beggar on Hallowmas. Isn't that great? Sometimes if you pay attention to the little stupid thing for saying, you actually learn some history.
That's true. So anyway, on Hallowmas, we're actually receiving food, okay. The All Souls Day.
All Souls Day, November 2nd.
They received the food in return for prayers for the dead on All Souls Day. Yeah. So they basically went the day before on Hallowmas.
Yeah, Hallowmas
was the day before All Souls Day.
And All Souls Day on Halloween is the day before Halloween, not the day after, which is screwed up, isn't it? You know, you think we do this thing twice the same way? No, every year is different.
Well, because sometimes we're able to pull up new information.
Okay, this is all... Okay.
And we are able to bring information as to what's current, that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, current, we get to current, you're not going to like current. Current is where they're banning Halloween activities all over the country. And it is not the religious right, it is the liberal left that is banning Halloween because it's racist.
How is Halloween racist?
Because it celebrates racist activities.
There's no religion attached to Halloween either.
It's not a religion. My God, it's a pagan thing, folks.
I know.
It's basically get the girls on top of the altar naked type of thing. So that's not, you know, it's a druid type Gaelic thing. It's got lots of drinking. It's got lots of sex.
It sounds like a party time.
I mean, you got to see a lot of Halloween being in another week on the protesters
on Wall Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they said there's no evidence that souling was ever practiced in America, and trick-or-treating may have developed in an American independent of any Irish or British antecedent. Don't bet on it. My God.
Yeah, well, how would they ever think that? Because
stupid.
Where else do you think a lot of the people from the United States came? Come on.
Where do you think the horror movie was created?
Oh, was it created?
It was created in U.S. Then, you know, where do you think these, I mean, most of this stuff was created by American farmers so they could grow pumpkins.
Oh, you mean so they have a market?
And created by the candy makers so they could sell candy. And Hallmark cards so they could sell cards.
In fact, if I saw the revenues for how popular Halloween is becoming, actually it's becoming more and more popular because what are some of the major holidays? Mother's Day for cards and flowers.
Yeah. Christmas
for general presents. And Halloween is becoming more popular for costumes, parties, celebrations. It's another reason.
But they're saying that basically Halloween, for all practical purposes, didn't even begin until 1911 in this country.
Are you serious?
When a newspaper in Kingston, Ontario, near the, okay, remember, it's British, folks, and there's no evidence that the British had anything to do with it. What is Canada? It's British, and they think that Well, there is no evidence that the British or the Irish had anything to do with it. It started in Canada and came here. Canada is a member of the Commonwealth of Great Britain.
And the newspaper was near Kingston, Ontario, near the border of upstate New York.
It reported it was normal for small children to go up the street guising on Halloween between 6 and 7, visiting shops and neighbors to be rewarded with nuts and candies, which actually, today, they're doing the same thing.
Actually, we see them doing that in the malls now.
All the malls basically have Halloween. Actually, the malls will have Halloween spread over like 2 or 3 days for the kids to come in and do that. Because, you know, it's a big deal because the parents have nothing to do except go shop. The kids go, ooh, but I can guarantee you, I lived out in the country, and I'd take my little one, you know, we'd take her in and we'd go from mall to mall. So bad. When you live in a place, when the nearest home is a mile away, you don't have a lot of people.
It takes a lot to go trick-or-treating.
So you just put the candy in a bowl outside, and you come back, people have added candy to it, which is always weird.
What? They added candy to it?
There was always more candy when we came back and we left because people, I think because all these places had kids, and they weren't giving candy out, and they knew that we were at the beginning of this. We were at the beginning because we, in custom homes, we were at the beginning of the street, so we put the big bowl out with a light on the front, and they were just dumping their candy in so the other kids could come by and get hands out. It made no sense. I mean, it made no sense whatsoever. I mean, nobody was taking candy out. I mean, we sat there, you know, there's much candy. There's more in that bowl than when we started out. But we assumed, like, after years, that because the other families were taking their kids into town.
Oh, they just brought all the candy, dumped it into your bowl.
They would buy the candy and dump it in ours and figure the kids from the neighborhood would all drop by. But the problem was, even though they were probably bringing the kids there, they were dumping the candy that they bought also in the thing, so we kept it.
So you kept accumulating. There wasn't enough kids to eat the candy.
There wasn't enough kids to eat the candy. It was funny. I mean, so, but okay, what we got? Another isolated reference appears in 1915, with a third reference in 1920. And here comes the bit which I told you.
Which?
Hallmark cards started producing cards.
In what year?
In the 1920s. Commonly showed children but do not depict trick-or-treating. So isn't that amazing? It started becoming a card day by Hallmark in the 20s. So that's when you know you're in business. And then we're going to jump it wasn't the term trick or treat was not printed until 1934, and the first used in national publication occurred in 1930. I hate to tell you this, folks, but they used to do Halloween stuff in cartoons in the 30s.
Oh, they did?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because you have to understand, I'm betting that this thing was written by somebody that was not, like he's just fresh out of college, and he basically has no knowledge of anything that happened beyond 1990.
Oh.
You know, his earliest memory of Halloween is Snoopy and the Great Pumpkin. There were things before that, I guarantee you. Walt Disney did it, Walter Lantz did it. They all were doing Halloween stuff in the 1930s.
Well, there was a Mickey Mouse with Halloween.
Oh yeah, but
in fact, Disneyland does celebrate Halloween.
I know. We got
so there's Universal Studios in Knott's Berry Farm.
That's right. And you know why? Because the Universal did all of the monster movies. They started the monster movies in the 1930s.
Oh.
And you know, and because they were done, kids went out playing monsters. I remember I used to be Frankenstein. I put my jacket on and then, you know, I'd make my brothers and sisters up like they were, you know, like, you know, the Bride of Frankenstein. One would be the Bride of Frankenstein, the other would be a vampire. The girl had been bitten by my other brother, so who was a vampire. And all you did when you were a vampire, you took your little cape and went, good evening. And they would go up, good evening. You know, go,
is that what you do?
Good evening. You know, and they did that. As they got better, I'd give them fangs and other stuff. But basically, trick-or-treating spread from the United States eastward, stalled by sugar rationing that began in 1942, but it did not end until 47. Basically talking about 47 issues of children's magazine Jack and Jill. and had Halloween episodes, and basically Jack Benny and Adventure of Ozzie and Harriet, 1948, did it, and then Walt Disney basically did a cartoon Trick or Treat for UNICEF.
Really?
Yeah, Ozzie and Harriet on their episode were besieged by trickers. Actually, I don't want to make mention of the fact, but I actually did things with Ricky Nelson on Ozzie and Harriet.
Oh, you did?
Anybody remember who Ozzie and Harriet is? That's how old I am. So, I knew Ricky before he could sing.
Ah.
I knew the Nelsons when Harriet Hiller was one sexy-looking woman who basically didn't wear a lot, and she couldn't cook a bit, folks. She had a personal assistant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, didn't cook, had a personal assistant. So that's why when you saw her dressed like she did, which we paid homage to her, the thing is she would wear high heels, necklaces.
She didn't worry about things getting all over her clothes.
I guess she wasn't cooking; she was just handing stuff out on television. But I don't know. But likewise, we played on radio shows. The children would explain what trick or treating was to puzzle adults, and sometimes even the children protested. Members of the Madison Square Boys Club carried a banner that said "American boys don't beg."
Oh, because they thought trick or treating was begging.
Yeah, they had, we had jack-o'-lantern.
And on jack-o'-lantern, okay, you see our pumpkin right here. Typically a carved pumpkin. This one,
It's carved.
It's carved, and it's a pumpkin.
It's a styrofoam carved pumpkin.
And they associate it with Halloween, of course, because at the end of the harvest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And typically, what you do is you cut off the top.
Yeah.
Right? And the inside, because part of it is you cut off the top so you can get to the inside and cut out the inside of the pumpkin so you can put a candle inside.
Yeah. And people that know what they're doing don't throw this stuff away. They harvest the seeds, clean the seeds off, dry the seeds, and roast them.
Make pumpkin seeds. It's really good.
And the insides, you basically... You take the inside of the pumpkin out, you scrunch it all up, you make pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie comes from pumpkins, folks. What happens is that they'll peel the whole pumpkin and make the stuff. But my family, because we would raise pumpkins, actually because I did grow up, we have a truck farm in Culver City. We basically had several acres of ground, and we'd have a huge pumpkin patch, and we tried to basically make as big a pumpkins as we could. We would line our entire driveway up to where the kids could come. So we didn't have lights. I lived in this era, we didn't have toilets.
Well, yeah, and you're not going to bring power over to it, so you just carve the pumpkin and put a candle in it, right?
We put candles in. We use these little things they call tea candles today. We basically, what we were doing, we would take a can that we had used, we saved the cans that we were getting food out of, and then put a part of a candle, a bigger candle in each one of them, and then you set the little flame going with the top and make eerie things. But
well, and then the jack-o'-lantern, they are saying that this is a North American term.
Yep.
That they really don't use that term other places. Although they still do carve pumpkins in other locations.
Because most places, a pumpkin is an American plant. It's a gourd that is only...
Well, that makes perfect sense then.
It is a gourd that was, I think, American Indians did it because American Indians basically did the seeds, they did the other stuff, they made their own, you can make bread out of because we've actually done
pumpkin bread.
We make pumpkin
now he
bread.
wants me to have carrot cake, pumpkin bread. I love those.
Yeah, and they basically would use it as a food source, so...
There's carrot cake, actually pumpkin bread, that does count as a fruit, right, and vegetable?
It's a gourd, it's a vegetable.
It counts as vegetable. So if you have pumpkin pie, that counts as...
Yeah, it's a...
I don't know if it really counts as your daily fruits and vegetables.
Well, it actually does if you don't add sugar and stuff to it. If you add... because what my mother would do, add, she would use, she would use ground nutmeg because we had nutmeg shells, nutmeg things, use nutmeg, and she would use cinnamon and nutmeg and not put sweets in it, and it would be a little on the tart side. We'd make these great big pumpkins, which is, we'd basically sit there, little kids, all of us sit there and scoot out the inside with our spoons, and then we'd make this great big pile. My mother said, "Don't drop any of that on the floor, we're using it." And he said, "Did you drop some of that on the floor, little one?" And "No, I didn't drop it on the floor," and I sat there. Then they'd say, "Go get cooked anyway." I like holidays, folks, so I had a good time when I was young. She lived in a nunnery, so
No.
Mm.
They always like to say that.
And they did have, I told you, they had Halloween 70 years ago,
Ooh.
80 years ago,
Oh.
90.
But there are stories about it, like old Irish folklore
Yeah.
that tells of Jack, a lazy yet shrewd farmer who uses a cross to trap the devil. And our story says that Jack tricked the devil into climbing an apple tree, and once he was up there, Jack quickly placed crosses around the trunk or carved a cross into the bark so that the devil couldn't get down. Another myth says that Jack put a key in the devil's pocket while he was suspended upside down.
Like it's got to do with the devil came down to Georgia. That's sort of.
Oh, that song? The devil came down to Georgia?
Yeah, about trapping the devil, folks.
How'd they trap him in the song? I'm trying to think of
The
the
devil
song.
came down to Georgia. Basically, like they trapped him in a tree.
Oh, like that one where he trapped him in a tree. How'd they trap him in a tree? Oh, he went up the tree and then they put a cross on it?
They basically, they just did it. They didn't put a cross on it. They just did. This is a more modern thing. It still trapped him in the tree. Because once he got up the tree, he couldn't come down. It's like Death Takes a Holiday, you know, Mr. Black or something. It's all basically based off of that same legend where they trapped the devil in a tree. So, but basically, it had to do with it. You trapped the devil in the tree so the devil couldn't take any soul on that day.
Oh.
So
right before, well, All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, and nobody dies on All Hallows Eve. So you go out, which is why on Halloween
What, they're trying to go get the other person?
no, they're not. The Walking Dead are on Halloween because they're not allowed to die, but they're dead. See? Yeah.
Okay, so
No.
okay, so you're learning too, just like me.
Okay. Basically, we got well. The thief died as all living things. Of course, his life become too sinful to go to heaven. However, the devil had promised not to take his soul, and so was barred from hell. Jack had nowhere to go, so he asked what he would see where to go, and he had no light. The devil tossed him an ember that would never burn out from the flames of hell. He carved out one of his big turnips, which was his favorite food, put the ember in it, and began innocently wandering the earth for a resting place. He became known as Jack of Lantern. Now you hear Jack O' Lantern from a Irish folk tale. It had nothing to do with pumpkins. It had to do with Jack carving a turnip. Okay, I think turnips are really big. I mean, I used to grow turnips that were 5 pounds.
How did it change to pumpkin then?
Because we had pumpkins.
Because you didn't have turnips.
We didn't have turnips. We had pumpkins. They had big pumpkins, not big turnips. In Ireland, they grew turnips. Because I know my grandmother brought pumpkin seeds from Ireland with her. And we would grow turnips like you would not believe. And then you have to harvest the thing. So, but there's always variations of the thing. You know, the wise and good man, or even God helping Jack to prevail over the devil. You know, there is difference of bargains with the devil. He's considered a greedy man and not allowed in either heaven or hell without mentioning the devil. The term Jack Lantern originally meant a night watchman or a man with the lantern. Were the earliest.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Where the guy was going in the gravesites carrying the lantern. Because you've seen that image, right?
Yeah. And basically known as the name Jackie Lantern and Jackie. You know, Jackie, that was a person. It was the name of an individual that did work. You know, a Jackie.
Oh.
You know, and Jackie, and then Jackie Lantern. So it ended up being gutterized to Jack the Lantern. You know, referred to the will-o'-the-wisp concept rather than the pumpkin carving aspect. Oh, here we go. Now we got your costumes for you. So
The costumes, okay, they're worn on or around October 31st. I think a lot of that has to do with what day the party is or what day you're celebrating.
And I don't anymore, honestly, I don't know what is Halloween anymore because we have to be ready on on Saturday and Sunday. And if they come by on a Monday, they're screwed. Yeah, so, here's a no-call. You know, there will be people here, but only Scrooge will be here on that day.
Yeah, you could kind of ask us, like, what day are kids going trick-or-treating? I have no idea.
I don't know. I think it's going to be, I think it's Saturday and Sunday of this year. Which
oh, and you know what? I wonder if Daylight Savings Time, because Daylight Savings Time typically has always happened right around Halloween weekend.
Mm-hmm. And what happens is, I think we lose, do we gain an hour of sleep? Or
Fall
do
back.
We
Fall back so you gain an hour.
You gain an hour, so basically it has something to do with the fact that kids are all out, and they got that extra hour to make up from eating too much candy, which I did. Believe me, my brothers and sisters used to get more hell from my mother about the stuff, because whatever was the richest was what they would eat first.
Of course.
Not the, I always liked the bubble gum. I still own the bubble gum because my mother makes it. It's bad for you. That bubble gum is bad for you. Let your brother have it. And my father, yeah, but she just told them it was bad for them. So.
I know.
It's bad for me too then.
So when did the costumes first start? Well, according to the research, it became, of course, in the early 1900s, not at the turn of the century. And it was for adults as well as for children. And the first mass-produced Halloween costumes started coming out in the 1930s, yeah. When trick-or-treating was becoming more and more popular.
As didn't the old person say, it came with Universal making all of its horror movies.
When was the first one? Was it Frankenstein?
First one was actually not Frankenstein. It was Todd Browning's Dracula.
Oh.
Yep, it was Dracula.
I bet that was a popular costume.
Yep, and you know what also predated Frankenstein?
What?
The Mummy.
Oh, it did?
Yep.
So whenever that came out, it probably helped spur people to dress up and go out on Halloween and be the Mummy.
Yeah,
but they sold a lot of toilet paper that year.
Yeah, and you know why Boris Karloff got to be Frankenstein?
What?
Because Boris Karloff was playing. Boris Karloff was basically he was the Mummy in the end, but Boris Karloff was a well-spoken Egyptian that was actually the Mummy. And basically, at the end of the picture, he turned back into the Mummy and basically went. But Boris Karloff was not a horror actor until he got Frankenstein. He was a legitimate actor that played the lead role in The Mummy, which was not what anybody thought. There was no mummy in The Mummy. Mm. It was talking about tomb breakers and stuff.
So one of the things that makes Halloween different from other events where people are wearing costumes or masquerades is that typically during the time of Halloween, the dressing or the costumes, besides being the typical things like Angry Birds this year or
political figures.
Oh yeah, and it's like Richard Nixon was a popular mask. This year Obama mask will probably be popular.
Yeah, because if you don't like the elected official, expect there to be lots of